behind the almost virtuous shine of perfectionism lies a fear as deep as it is poorly understood, the fear of one's own power. Imagine it, a gleaming facade, polished to an impeccable glow, admired by the world as a mark of discipline, a testament to excellence, a badge of high moral ground. Society claps for those who demand nothing less than flawless, celebrating their relentless drive as the pinnacle of commitment. But what if this is all a grand illusion, a shimmering veil hiding not strength, but fragility? What if that unyielding pursuit of perfection isn't a crown of virtue but a chain forged in the shadows of the soul, a sophisticated mechanism of self-sabotage, designed to keep you small, safe and forever, on the edge of greatness without stepping into it? Carl Gustav Jung, the explorer of the psyche's hidden depths, saw through this deception. For him, perfectionism wasn't a noble trait, but a mask, a persona crafted to shield the ego from the terror of embracing its true essence. The human mind, he observed, weaves these disguises to bury parts of the self too frightening to face. And perfectionism is one of the most elegant of flawless exterior that guards against the storm within. Not just external judgment, but the overwhelming responsibility of wielding one's innate power. Picture someone haunted by a dream, to write a book that could change lives, launch a business that reshapes the world, shift careers toward a calling that sets the soul ablaze, or stand before a crowd and speak truths that echo through generations. They spend years in preparation, studying every angle, planning every detail, adjusting and readjusting until the vision gleams like a diamond. But they never begin. The text isn't quite right yet. The plan needs one more layer of security. The idea demands further refinement. Days bleed into months, months into years, and the dream remains a ghost, forever almost real. This isn't about quality. It's about fear, a paralyzing dread not of failure but of success, of unleashing something so potent it could shatter the careful world they've built. Perfectionism becomes an elegant paralysis, a state where they seem busy, productive, striving. Yet they're frozen, avoiding the raw terror of stepping into their full potential. For in that potential lies the painful truth. They could have done more, achieved greatness sooner, if only they hadn't hidden behind the endless quest for flawlessness. In this video, we'll plunge into the depths of this thesis, exploring how perfectionism isn't a path to excellence, but a disguised retreat from the self. We'll journey through Jung's labyrinthine thoughts, navigating the shadows of the psyche, uncovering the unconscious mechanisms that keep millions stagnant, even as they appear to strive harder than anyone else. This is an invitation to question a dangerous belief that perfection is freedom, when in truth it may be the most beautiful prison, a gilded cage where dreams wither unseen. Because at its core, the question isn't why you crave perfection, but what profound truth about yourself are you desperately avoiding? Perfectionism, under the clinical and almost surgical gaze of Carl Gustav Jung, is not merely a quirk for details or an elevated quality distinguishing the elite from the ordinary. From the Swiss psychiatrist's perspective, it's a deeply rooted psychic mechanism, serving a precise and shadowy function, to shield the ego from confronting the vast, untamed contents of the unconscious. And among those contents lies the individual's own inner power, repressed and waiting. Jung observed that the human soul lives in perpetual tension between the conscious and the unconscious, a delicate balance where perfectionism emerges in the liminal space, between the ego as desire for admiration and the unconscious as demand for wholeness. This obsession with impeccability is often a plausible excuse to evade real action, a fortress of endless refinement that keeps the world at bay. While one perfects, one doesn't risk, one doesn't expose, one doesn't truly live. This fits into the broader tapestry of Jung's thought, where the psyche cannot tolerate voids. Repressed energy must flow somewhere. Perfectionism feeds on the persona, that social mask we craft to navigate the world, an impeccable facade seeking approval and recognition. For the perfectionist, this persona becomes a sacred altar, where everything must shine without flaw, a shield against vulnerability. But behind it lurks what Jung called the shadow, the unconscious repository of desires, fears and potentials, banished because they don't fit the acceptable self. In the perfectionist's shadow dwell not just vices or shameful memories, but grand talents, creative impulses, and the very greatness they fear. Repressing the shadow doesn't erase it, it amplifies its influence, exerting a silent pull on thoughts, behaviors, and decisions. Perfectionism becomes a defense, locking the shadow away, preventing its contents from surfacing and forcing a confrontation with uncomfortable truths. Here lies the paradox. The drive for excellence isn't inherently destructive. It can propel creation, innovation, achievement. But when it tyrannizes, demanding absolute flawlessness, it paralyzes, turning a noble pursuit into a gilded cage. The perfectionist believes they're in control, diligently honing their craft, but in reality they're controlled by the fear residing in their shadow, by the anxiety of exposure, by the dread of shining too brightly. That silence in the face of potential is devastating. It's the psyche's way of whispering that something vital is being suffocated. Jung understood this as psychic stagnation. Energy meant for action, transformation, and growth, trapped in a whirlpool, spinning without escape, manifesting as anxiety, self-criticism, or existential crisis. The perfectionist lives in tension, a dormant volcano ready to erupt because the unconscious demands expression, and denial only builds pressure. If this resonates, stirring echoes in the chambers of your soul, click subscribe and join the channel. Thank you for your support. It fuels the fire of these explorations. Speaking of the fear of one's own power may sound paradoxical, even absurd at first glance. After all, who in their right mind would dread being strong, successful, capable of reshaping their life and the world? Isn't power what we all crave, the ultimate prize in a world of striving? Jung compels us to look deeper, beyond the surface desires, into the abyss of the psyche where truths lie buried. For him, the fear of one's own power is not only real, it's one of the most profound, most paralyzing terrors the human soul can face. This fear stems from the immense burden power carries: responsibility. Recognizing your potential means accepting you could have done more, gone further, created wonders sooner. That realization is a dagger to the heart for those who've hidden behind excuses, whispering that they weren't ready, weren't perfect. It forces a reckoning with lost time, wasted opportunities, the dreams deferred under the guise of preparation. Jung saw the human spirit in constant duality, between the desire for freedom and the terror of it, between the pull toward greatness and the urge to remain safe, hidden, unexposed. The highest life calls us to individuation, to unfold our unique essence. But that call is uncomfortable, painful, demanding. We shed limited identities for something vast and unknown. For many, staying small offers comfort, anonymity, less judgment, fewer risks. Being excellent invites envy, suffocating expectations, hostility from a society that claims to celebrate genius, but often resents those who rise too high. Power means stepping into the light, where every move is scrutinized, every failure amplified. Moreover, there's the weight of the shadow itself. Jung warned that everything repressed, talents, creativity, boldness, accumulates energy in the unconscious, exerting unconscious influence. Perfectionism is a maneuver to avoid this confrontation, a way to sidestep the anguish of unleashing what's been buried. But if all this fear hides in the depths, where does this dreaded strength reside? Where is the power that, according to Jung, dwells in our shadow, capable of destruction or liberation? To answer, we must venture into the darkest territory of the mind, the shadow itself, and that is what we'll explore next. To understand why so many perfectionists remain ensnared in cycles of endless idealization and immobility, we must delve into one of Jung's most fascinating and unsettling concepts, the shadow. This isn't just a vault for flaws, vices, or ugly thoughts. It's the unconscious repository where desires, fears, and repressed potentials fester, growing stronger in the dark. Jung defined the shadow as everything the individual refuses to be, yet inevitably is. Aspects, qualities, impulses, abilities, and feelings banished from consciousness because they clash with the socially acceptable self, the persona. For the perfectionist, The persona is a fortress of discipline and detail, a mask of relentless excellence. But behind it lies the shadow, containing not only feared weaknesses, but also the grandeur they dare not claim. Jung warned that repressing the shadow doesn't dissolve it, it empowers it, letting it exert a silent, insidious influence over thoughts, behaviors, and decisions. Perfectionism emerges as a sophisticated defense, a gilded barrier, keeping the shadow locked away, sparing the ego the discomfort of integration. This is where the paradox blooms. The drive for flawlessness isn't just avoidance of error. It is a flight from success, from the raw, unbridled potential that threatens to upend the careful life they've built. The perfectionist clings to their mask, terrified that embracing their shadow's gifts would demand too much. Exposure, responsibility, a reckoning with what could have been. In the shadow dwell the opposites, the flaws they dread alongside the greatness they deny. For the perfectionist, it's the creative chaos, the bold risks, the unpolished brilliance they've repressed as too messy, too threatening. That energy, denied outlet, manifests as stagnation, anxiety, compulsions, self-sabotage. Jung called it psychic energy demanding expression. Bottled up, it turns toxic, fueling the very paralysis it seeks to escape. The perfectionist's endless revisions, their refusal to launch, are unconscious strikes against their own potential, a way to stay safe from the shadow's call. The shadow doesn't erupt only in crisis, it infiltrates daily choices, an email rewritten endlessly, a project abandoned before it breathes, a relationship ended before it deepens. All to avoid the vulnerability of imperfection, the terror of shining too brightly. Jung believed this repression creates a volcano within, ready to explode because the psyche craves wholeness. Perfectionism is the lid, but it cracks under pressure, leading to anxiety, frustration, a chronic dissatisfaction masked as striving. The cost is immense, a life unlived, potential wasted, all in the name of an unattainable ideal. After plunging into the psyche's depths, the lingering question for many is, what now? Intellectual understanding that perfectionism is a veil for fear, that the shadow holds both darkness and light, isn't enough. Knowledge without action is a hollow echo. Transformation demands application, a bridge from insight to reality. Jung didn't just theorize, he pointed to individuation, the path to wholeness, where the unconscious is integrated, not exiled. For the perfectionist, this means facing the shadow, not destroying it, but transforming its energy from paralysis to purpose. Individuation is the soul's journey to become what it truly is, weaving together the fragmented self. Perfectionism, as a defense, must be dismantled, not by force but by recognition. Jung urged courage. Gaze into the shadow and ask without masks, what am I avoiding by chasing perfection? Often the answer pierces, fear of your potential, of the responsibility it demands. Admitting this is the first crack in the prison walls, a step toward freedom, where perfectionism shifts from tyrant to tool, a drive for excellence without the chains of immobility. Jung believed this begins with action, not contemplation. The self emerges in the real world, not the mind's endless rehearsals. Start imperfectly. Write the draft. Launch the project. Speak the truth. Each step loosens the shadow's grip, proving that imperfection doesn't destroy, it liberates. Set limits on preparation, give yourself a deadline, uncomfortable and finite, then act. The psyche demands flow. Stagnation breeds anguish. Dialogue with the shadow. When fear rises, write, what is the worst if I act imperfectly? Naming it diminishes its power, turning dread into clarity. Jung's wisdom. Freedom begins when you accept the first attempt will be flawed. It's in imperfection that creativity thrives. Experimentation, risk, growth. Waiting for perfection is a lie. It's unattainable, a stall tactic. Start small. Defy perfectionism in daily acts. Send the email without endless revisions. Share the idea without polishing every edge. Each victory rewires your soul, proving you can act without the world crumbling. Remember, no individuation is comfortable. It demands humility to embrace your fallible humanity. But Jung promised, this path leads to authenticity, meaning a life where suffering blooms into purpose. The perfectionist's trap is elegant, but breaking it unleashes the power you feared. What are you postponing in perfection's name? Share in the comments. The project stalled, the idea trapped, the fear unspoken. Illuminate your shadow, you're not alone. If this stirred your depths, watch the next video. It's vital, piecing together the path to liberation. This is your invitation, from prison to power, from fear to freedom.